I love when we get a full team on a space as opposed to a one-on-one. It's more fun.
Yeah, you can ask a lot more different questions too. So we should
Yeah, exactly.
BD tech everything on here.
All right, DK still requested to speak, but I think we can get started.
Sounds good.
All right, Arbonauts, welcome to a Twitter Spaces. Um, we have Premia with us today, Premia Finance, as I should say. And yeah, we're going to talk about options, DeFi options, something a lot of you on Arbitrum are familiar with, seeing as DeFi has really taken off here. DeFi, what is it? DeFi on Arbitrum is DeFi on Ethereum, same thing. So, without further ado, why don't you guys take turns introducing yourselves and just kind of quickly how you got into crypto and more specifically, building in DeFi, is you really have to be passionate about it.
Sweet. I'll go first, and then everyone's go after. So I go by Caesar. I've been in the space for a couple years now. I actually worked over at DeFi Pulse, is how I got into everything, and got to see like everyone's TVL when it was going crazy in the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, and how the block building, like Lego building blocks of DeFi, got to get put together. And I wanted to see what was kind of the next frontier. So at the beginning of 2021, beginning of 2022 into 2021, I started working with the Premia guys on option vaults and bridging that gap, because there's a lot of things that need to be improved on that front, and that's kind of how I started getting into the DeFi space. Is like not just like a writer or like talking about it, but actually being able to build it. So.
All right, sweet. Who's next? Cozy?
Hello, I'm Cozy. I guess a quick TLDR on how I got in was just through a friend who had led me onto the dark web to buy computer parts, and thinking that just Bitcoin was kind of like the currency used on that side of the internet, which grew into learning more about kind of going down the rabbit hole of crypto, the altcoins. Froggy, you're loud.
I had no idea what that
Then
was.
in early 2017, I left traditional work and started working for crypto companies. Bounced around between some exchanges and more popular non-custodial wallets at the time, before leaving that and just kind of going full-time, not working for a company, but popping around and kind of moonlighting at different DeFi protocols, from 2019 until I met these guys in 2020, and we were working on things in the NFT space, which kind of evolved into what we're doing now with Premia.
Sorry about that. I accidentally hit the laugh track button instead of the laughing emoji. I didn't even know you could do a laugh track.
Yeah, I thought it was a room sound button, but now I know how it feels when I put that laugh track on when people are saying something funny.
Yeah, I think it's unusable. Um, but anyway, I was laughing at the computer parts, which I also bought. Anyways, the I got my start in crypto, I don't know, a long time ago. I didn't really get active in the development space until 2019, 2020, when DeFi started blowing up. My first real public entry into the space, as Froggy, was with Rope, which was an NFT project Cozy mentioned, where it was basically just, it started as a meme, and then we kind of just, built a community and kept developing around it, to test new fun ideas around NFTs and financialization, etc. And then after that, we decided, a couple of us from that team decided that we had a really good skill set and a good team that we trusted, and so we wanted to, you know, build something a little bit more serious and professional. And so that's when we looked into starting Premia. And so a little background into why was like around that time, December 2020 was like when all of the GameStop stuff was going on, and basically, people who were trading options in TradFi were getting screwed over by, banks like Robinhood, and Citadel, etc., who were just closing off the trade when they started losing. And so we decided, like if these options were on chain and fully collateralized, fully decentralized, autonomous, there would be no way for a bank like Citadel or Robinhood to just cut off the trade when they start losing. And so instead, it'd be a much more fair, open market for options. And so that's kind of what led us to jump into DeFi options.
Awesome. Was there one more person?
Yeah, I mean, I can go real quick.
All right.
Yeah, I'm DK. I've been in the crypto space since roughly 2016. Used to make some YouTube videos. They're all unlisted now, so you won't find them. However, I've been in the space since as an investor in that regard from 2016 to 2020, and then roughly when COVID happened, got super into the DeFi space, joined those guys in an airdrop channel, and we were all pro bono working on that NFT project. And then one weekend we discussed, like, we were talking about sushi futures. Actually, at the time, it was shortly after sushi dropped, and we're like, well, why don't we just do on-chain options? Like, there's no Hedgehog was the only one. There's no new altcoins, and we started building in 2020, and quit my job, my normie job in 2021, and here we are today.
That moment when you can quit the normie job, what an achievement, eh? That's the pivotal moment when you're all in on Web3. All right, great. Nice for everyone to get to know the team behind Premia and be familiar with your backgrounds. A diverse group, but with a unifying reason to all come together as we'd expect. All right, so then that being said, why don't you explain to everyone what Premia Finance is? I'm sure they know it's an options protocol, but I'm sure there's like more uniqueness to it than that as well. Who wants to take that?
I could take that. Premia currently is a decentralized options exchange. Right now, if you were to use our V2 product, you can go deposit onto the exchange, a different array of assets. It's kind of like depositing into a vault, where when you deposit your capital, you'll be either selling covered calls if you're in the call vault, or cash secured puts if you're in a put vault. And then on the opposite side of that, there's an AMM where users can come and buy or sell these options. They can buy it from the AMM, and then they can sell it back later for a profit or for a loss. Essentially, Premia is aiming to decentralize the options experience on chain, so that anybody who wants to can trade options for the tokens that they want to get volatility exposure to.
Okay, sweet. And then I believe there's a American versus European option situation worth explaining.
Yeah, sure. So options on Premia V2 are American in nature, which means that they can be exercised anytime prior to expiration of the option or after the expiration. If the option's exercised before, the exercise price will be dependent on whatever the spot price is at the time it's exercised. If it's exercised after expiration, then the spot price will be whatever the spot price was at expiration. So this is different from European options, where the exercise price is always the spot price at expiration, and there's no way to exercise early. The only way to get liquidity, if the option is before expiration, is to sell that option back to another user in the market. Whereas with American options, if there's an exercise value in the option, you can capture that anytime prior to expiration.
Yeah, I didn't know there was a difference in the styles. Is that is it like a regulatory thing or more of just like a style of the way they do options?
Both, I would say. It's less so regulatory, except for that different regulatory frameworks favor different options, but more so just different markets have different use cases for each. American options are priced slightly differently than European options. And so it really just depends on whether or not you want to be able to exercise early in those markets. So traditional, American stock markets use American options, but plenty of options around the world use European options. It just depends on kind of the commodity being traded.
I'll also add that what you traditionally see in the DeFi space is European, and I think that is mostly due to the fact that they're kind of easier to price continuously over the course. Excuse me, American are more difficult to price over the duration of the option. And as far as I know, I think we're still the only ones that bring an iVault Oracle price on chain that's continuously used to sell back or price the intrinsic and extrinsic risk of the option. And so that's maybe why you traditionally only see the Europeans. It's just kind of a more difficult product American is.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't know that because I haven't heard any options protocol talk about the two differences, and it's probably has to do with if they even, I'm sure they know of it, but they maybe just don't support both of them through the Oracle. So that's cool that you guys do that. So a big thing with the DeFi options is vaults or smart vaults. Can you explain to the users basically what that is and what state DeFi option vaults are in and the difference I'd say between providing liquidity to vaults versus providing them to Premia's pools?
I'll take that. So DeFi option vaults are just a systematic way to buy or sell options depending on what side of the market you want to be on. Next, I'll go over kind of like what's the difference between being in the vault versus being in Premia's pools. So if you are in Premia's liquidity pools right now, you are agreeing to basically underwrite the full book of risk, which just means if anyone wants to come, a trader wants to come buy an option at any strike price, any duration of time, you're agreeing to underwrite that if you're in the pools right now. You can get really high premiums. You also get really high risk, so you don't have a really strong control over your risk profile. With the option vaults, we choose a risk profile. So we choose a standard delta of 20, and we sell options that are meeting that risk profile each week. So your risk as you're going into the week, and that you're going to most likely have your options you want to sell be bought by somebody in the market because we're selling them wholesale, basically. So that's the big difference between the two. And then you going back to the options vaults, if you provide liquidity, as I said before, you're underwriting a specific set of risk. And then if you wanted to buy, we do a Dutch auction every Friday to sell those underwritten options so you can buy in quantity and not have to worry about any price slippage that you would see in some of the other venues you could make these trades on. So I feel like it was. Go ahead.
I'll add to that. That was a good explanation. So basically, the main difference for pricing is if you're buying an option from the pool, that's priced directly by the volatility oracle in tandem with the supply and demand of options in that pool on the exchange. So if there's a spike in demand, there will be a spike in price on the exchange, similar to Uniswap style pools. Whereas with the Knox Vault auctions, instead it still takes prices from the volatility oracle to give a range, but it starts at the top of the range and it'll drop down to the bottom of the range over the period of the auction. And so basically, as people bid and take away available options, that will fill the trade for the depositors in that vault as people bid on the options that they're selling. Very similar to something like Ribbon auctions.
Okay, cool. And then I guess the relationship between option sellers and option buyers, how does that kind of coexist?
Yeah, so they're taking the opposite side of the same trade. So when somebody is selling an option, they're taking on the exposure to the volatility and the spot price risk of the underlying asset. And if somebody is buying the option, they're paying for access to that exposure. So how this works is the option buyer will pay a premium up front for the opportunity to close that option by the expiration time in the future. And if the price of the underlying asset, let's say it's an Ethereum call option, let's say the price of Ethereum rises above their strike price before the expiration, then they'll be able to exercise that option, and that will result in a payout to the option holder at the expense of the option seller. And so that's why it's you say it's two sides of the same trade, because any profit that is made by the buyer is a loss taken by the seller, and vice versa.
Okay, cool. And that's this, and then just to like go back, that's like similar for both the American and European style options.
Yes, the only difference there between American and European is that American options can be exercised prior to the expiration.
Okay, cool. So, oh yeah, and then one question. So there's no Canadian style, is there? Like I'm in Canada, it's just the same as American, or
You know, it's no, not currently, but
laugh track.
there is an options protocol on chain that is creating all sorts of new things. So I'm sure they'll be Canadian before you know it.
No. With that said, though, there are different regionals. There's Asian types which use a different pricing mechanism. I think it's like an average or median over the time frame to calculate the price. There's something called Bermudan, which is kind of like a mixture between European and American. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a Canadian.
Okay, cool. And then I'm sure I know the answer to this, but just why Arbitrum for the smart vault launches?
I can answer most of that. There was one other question you asked that I want to answer too. I think you asked what's the big difference between our vaults versus other DOBs in the system right now, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know if we answered that or not, but the biggest two things is instant liquidity. Froggy sort of mentioned that, but basically anyone in the vaults that is a liquidity provider can exit their position whenever they like and receive whatever the mix of underwritten positions of options and whatever their initial collateral was. And if they would like, they could reassign those options back to the greater Premia pool and receive their initial collateral back. So that's a really cool feature that I don't believe any other options vaults out there does right now. It lets you really control, even more so control the risk that you're taking on, your max loss, etc., like that, or your max gains.
Yeah, risk averse.
Yeah. Definitely can play around with that for sure, and make sure that you're very aware of how much you can max out your profit or minimize your losses, etc., like that. And the second,
you guys have given a lot of room for some game theory here and user skill.
I hope so. I hope people play with it because if you're skilled at doing that stuff, you can really have some fun ways to make not risk free, but risk averse money. So, yeah. And the other thing is that we have moved to the ERC 4626, the vault standard that everyone has. You're starting to see pop up with all the SGLP vaults coming out. They're all doing the vault standard for integration purposes. So basically, in the near future, you'll be able to do things like lend out, use your vault tokens as collateral on protocols or other things that are in the DeFi Lego system. So that's the two big changes that we're seeing in the vaults world right now for us. So sweet. And then the other question you asked was why Arbitrum?
Arbitrum.
Yeah, that's the main reason everyone's here. So when we started working on this about 9 months to a year ago, fees were super high. It was awesome to be able to come to a L2 that had somewhat of an ecosystem already built out. For those who aren't aware, there was not that many options platforms available on any L2 to deal with the fees, deal with the more robust strategies that are going to be created off of this. So Premia is there. It's awesome to be able to utilize that already on Arbitrum, and we've already seen the space grow in the DeFi ecosystem there. And then secondly, because of that, Premia being one of the first there, we have the most volume on Arbitrum as well. So it just kind of felt right to pair that with where all of our volume is now. There's some fun things you can do, talking about game theory of being able to provide liquidity in either the vault or the pools, being able to do various trades and arbitrage on that and stuff like that. So it's really cool to be able to have it all on one chain instead of having to move like cross chain or trying to figure out where you're going to be every day. So that is the two major reasons why we chose Arbitrum.
Yeah, I'm wondering what the landscape's going to look like, when the global economy and the bull market sort of makes its way back in.
The elusive
for these fee structures.
The elusive bull market.
Yeah, the elusive.
Yeah, I do think, like Caesar mentioned, these pools being on Arbitrum adds more opportunity for hedging the risk in the pool, because there's a lot more volume on Arbitrum in the other pools. So like if somebody wants to sell an option and then hedge that risk immediately with an option in the AMM, they could do that. But I think realistically, the main reason is, over the last year, we've been on multiple chains and including Arbitrum, and we've been watching the growth over the space, and Arbitrum is clearly leading the L2 space right now, and especially as far as Premia users, we're seeing the most usage across our platform on Arbitrum, and we continually see the most community members join from Arbitrum. So as long as we're seeing strength continued in the Arbitrum ecosystem, we're going to continue to support because we've been supported by Arbitrum.
You gotta go where the users want you to go.
Yeah, that's right.
I'd also like to give a shout out to Daniel Goldman from Arbitrum. We had a relationship prior to him being at Arbitrum, so when he went over there, he was a big proponent of new protocols coming over and deploying. So we were very, very early users of Arbitrum, and it was from the very beginning kind of in our sights to where we wanted to launch and pursue our L2 initiatives.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. Shouts to Daniel Goldman, wherever he may be. He was on an AMA earlier today in a different spaces, speaking on behalf of Arbitrum. So why don't you tell us a bit about some of the new features and ways you guys are innovating with the Premia Vaults?
Well, sort of went over some of those features already, but I'll give a quick rundown of sort of how things are going to flow going into the first epoch that starts on Friday. So we're starting to already have liquidity being brought into the system. Deposits are open. Come deposit. It's great. And when we have the first auction or the first trade that occurs on Friday, that will be underwriting positions. I think a little over 24 hours before the strike price is chosen, but underwriting positions of standard delta of 20. Hold on a second. I got people coming in on me. Good. Sorry. So sorry for the background noise there. But so when we go into this upcoming week, you're going to start to see people who are wanting to, or maybe unhappy or want to have instant liquidity, like I mentioned earlier, be able to exit the positions. There's also the ability to, for the people that are buying those options, to be able to exercise those if the strike, if the price of Ethereum goes above the strike or below the strike if they're in the put vault. Those are the two things that are going to be able to watch in real time how our users are able to actually do the game theory of that. And then the next thing is we have some partnerships / integrations coming in the future that are going to be not like off the launch obviously here, but that's the big innovation of being able to find ways to get closer to reduce risk. People love to say delta neutral, but that's extremely hard to do right now. But being able to have better utilization of the assets that are being underwritten, so using those as collateral, using those on other exchanges, using those in other capacities than just having the idle ETH, idle USDC, or DAI in this case, sit there. So those are the big things we're looking forward to. And then I think also there's going to be some fun additional strategies you can put on top of that with whether you're on the buy side or the sell side of the vaults, where you're looking at going short or long volatility, creating plays around this choppy market as we wait for the elusive bull. So that's definitely stuff going to be coming out on how to take advantage of that type of thing. So.
All right, sweet. And you're talking about the epoch on Friday. Is that can you talk just a little bit more about that? And
Oh yeah. So the each week we sell the options on a weekly cycle. I don't think I actually said that, but so we go and we call it epoch, but basically on every week we choose have a strike selection that happens on Thursday, 8 a.m. UTC. We then have about a 24-hour period to place pre-bids, so basically limit orders for people on the buy side to stake their claim in the auction that will occur on Friday. If you want to participate in the auction real time, you can do that as well. And if anyone's participating in a Dutch auction, it's just a traditional Dutch auction. We have a max price we set, and it slowly ticks down to the minimum price for those grouping of options. Sorry, a little tongue twister there. And that whatever the final clearing price is of that auction is the premium that is paid, or the fee that the traders are paying the liquidity providers for underwriting that position. And then we will tally all that up and give you an APY out for the coming weeks, so projected APY. As the users will sit for the next week, we redo that cycle again next Thursday and going forward every Thursday, similar to other option vaults that are out there. Like I said, and we've repeated a couple times, the big key thing that we've the user experience of that, of being able to enter and exit the vaults is at your leisure, is like the biggest change. That is very different from other systems that are out there right now, where you're just stuck in dealing with the risk that you've been put into. So yeah.
Yeah, traders, as we know, love to be flexible.
Yeah.
So like you guys are talking about the vaults a lot, and you're in V2 now. Do you have plans for more vaults and different strategies to keep traders kind of, being able to evolve their strategies and maximizing?
So yeah, for V2, we may have one or two more vaults come out, but we're really focused on V3, which we let the white paper out, the white paper out a week and a half ago, I believe, maybe 10 days ago, for what's going to be coming in V3. And there's a whole other wave of vaults that are kind of like required or very important for the success of V3 that'll be coming out. I actually have not worked that deeply on that, but I know Froggy and DK would love to talk about it.
Yeah, for V3, we've got a number of vaults that will launch with the V3 exchange, but we're also excited for a few things in the future. Number one is taking this epoch architecture further and seeing what other vaults we can build on top of this. The main difference between using these vaults in V2 versus using them in V3 is in V3, all of the liquidity across the exchange is interoperable with vaults, whereas in V2, the vault liquidity is entirely separate from the AMM liquidity. So the price discovery, the liquidity is fragmented, etc. Whereas on V3, it's composable together. So we're excited to see what's possible there on the new exchange with this architecture. But then, in addition to that, with V3, vaults will be able to be deployed. Vault strategies, at least, will be able to be deployed by anybody permissionlessly. Similar to how Yearn works with their ape.tax website. Anyone can develop a Yearn strategy and then test it themselves with their own capital. And if it passes certain health scores, it maintains certain performance metrics, then over time Yearn will consider adding it to their main vaults. And so we're considering taking on a very similar strategy here. We're building the vaults in a way that they can be, that strategies can be deployed by anybody and tested by them, in silo. And then as they're proven out and, the community wants them added to the main community vaults, that we can do that kind of thing. So the composability of V3 is really what I'm excited about. It allows us to kind of compose all of our different pieces together, as well as allow the broader DeFi system to build on top of V3, add strategies, and take advantage of all of this volatility architecture that we've built.
Right, which will then accelerate the adoption in DeFi for options.
Yeah, exactly. The way that we think about it is that vaults are really the entry into options for less sophisticated users who want to kind of set and forget their capital in a position and collect yield over time. Whereas the exchange is more for professional traders, market makers, etc., who are, trying to execute specific strategies, or they're trading specific positions, etc. Of course, there'll be less sophisticated traders, retail, etc., participating in those trades too. But we think that the main entry point for the less sophisticated users into DeFi options is the vaults, and then that can kind of be the Trojan horse to introduce them to vaults as a whole, as a volatility architecture for how they trade within their portfolio.
Yeah, cool. One of the common themes that have been coming up between different options protocols I've talked with, at least within the Arbitrum ecosystem or like neighboring, EVM systems, is just this responsibility to evolve options in DeFi and in crypto to be more than just a speculative thing, and more of a really strong tool for all types of traders.
Yeah, we definitely agree with that. Premia V1 started as a peer-to-peer options exchange, and the only thing that was happening on it was speculation, and we got a lot of requests from users like, hey, we want to be able to use this, but we don't really understand how to price options ourselves, etc. And so that's why we built Premia V2 the way that we did, is we basically had demands for this vault-like architecture where users could deposit their capital into the pools to sell across the full surface, and then any user could come and buy the options that they're looking for. And now that we've kind of built out that architecture and introduced to the broader ecosystem to what's possible with options, we got a lot more demands for taking that further into what we're building with V3, which is a fully fledged options exchange with vaults composable on top.
Well, cool. And then with V3, is that just launching on Arbitrum, or is it kind of a cross-chain, a smart contract?
That's not announced yet, but the current plan is to launch just on Arbitrum and kind of play it by ear. And the main reason for that is we don't want to fragment the liquidity of the exchange as we launch, so we want to launch on a single chain. And as I mentioned earlier, Arbitrum is where we see the most strength, specifically in our ecosystem, so it makes the most sense for us to kind of launch there for now and play it by ear from then.
All right, sweet. Makes sense to preserve and protect liquidity. Unless there's anything else you guys want to add, I feel like I've asked enough questions, and I could open it up to the community.
I mean, I'll add one other thing. I know that a lot of the community had requested that we move primarily our token liquidity onto Arbitrum, as most of the volume was there. So if you weren't already, looking on the Discord or watching on the Discord, that was completed earlier this week. So our main chain now for liquidity is Arbitrum, outside of the exchange, or on the exchange, obviously, but then also on the dexes as well.
LFG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we moved a significant amount of liquidity from mainnet to Arbitrum. So we hope that, this enables our Arbitrum traders to get, better access to execution prices for our token, et cetera, because we see the most usage on Arbitrum, so it only made sense to have the most liquidity there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm biased or unbiased, who knows, but I love it. Yeah, if anyone in the community has questions for these guys, they got a good bit of their team here. It's a good chance to ask and get a good answer. In the meantime, I'll just remind everyone here that, if you've missed any past AMAs or are looking to watch this again later or like clip any of it, we do eventually always upload them to our Arbitrum YouTube. No questions. I mean, we did cover quite a bit, so I'm not surprised. Oh, every time I say that, that's when we get a request. It's like a challenge. They're like, oh, okay, fine, we'll ask a question. All right, we have Totally coming on stage. They're totally connecting, and they disappeared. Great. Where can everybody go to get more details on the white paper? I'm sure it's more extensive than what we had time to cover today.
You can currently go to premia.finance/AMS or /v3.pdf. I know there will be some short video content, kind of light paperish, coming out shortly to explain it in more layman terms for the people that aren't going to follow along with all of the complex math that's detailed in the paper.
I think the easiest way to find it is to go to the Premia Finance Twitter account. I think it's in this spaces, so you can just click on the link for that, and it's probably pinned at the top. It like Cozy mentioned, it's a bit dense, so you might need to glaze over the math if you're not interested in it. But there is quite a bit of material worth reading that isn't math. So I would encourage everyone to take a look, give us your feedback, any criticisms, any comments, concerns that you have. We'd love to hear it, and we'd love to banter with you back and forth about why we did certain things.
And also for a fun thing that we did is there's a site where you can upload research papers, and then AI will look over it and provide answers. And so that's also on the Twitter feed. That's a little bit more layman's and easier to understand. So we took all those AI explainers and posted them on a site. That might be a good starting place.
Right.
Who knew that AI would be for simplifying things?
It actually did a very good job at kind of dumbing it down, making some of the paragraphs simpler to understand and taking the core ideas and summarizing them. So I like it. However, if this is something that interests you, please do read the paper, because upcoming we are going to be doing some bounties for people that are going to be writing some threads summarizing the paper or generating materials based on it to make this the concepts within easier to understand for our community and the larger DeFi community. So if you want to get a head start on that, a good way is to start understanding the concepts now, so that when we do announce those bounties, you can just create the content immediately.
That's awesome. A change from the usual bug bounty format.
Well, we will have bug bounties as well, but I think it's important for DeFi to understand the concepts in the white paper, and almost no one in DeFi is going to read the 10-page dense white paper. So we need people who are willing to kind of summarize that and put it into content that the general DeFi user is willing to read and consume.
Yeah, we always emphasize that literally just even base knowledge education of what you're using in DeFi will retain users longer, obviously, because they're not they're more risk averse, so they can stick around and keep contributing to that ecosystem. We have Galib, you're on the stage. Do you have a question for the team? Your mic is muted, by the way, if you're talking. Damn, we're 0 for 2.
Damn.
It happens. All good. That's okay. Just remind everyone where they can, ask you guys questions, whether it be Discord or Twitter, and they can always do that.
Yeah, come into the Discord, discord.gg/Premia. or follow us on Twitter/Premia Finance. If you tag our Twitter in something, I'm sure we'll respond. We've got a team of people managing that social. And otherwise, if you tag anyone on the team on Twitter, I'm sure we'll respond as well.
I do actually have a question on behalf of a Discord member, basically just asking about if there's any plans for collaborations with other DeFi tools or protocols on Arbitrum in the future.
Yes, we've got plenty of plans. A lot of that is contingent on the V3 release. But we've already partnered with a bunch of protocols on Arbitrum. We recently launched wrapped staked ETH in partnership with Lido. Lido did some liquidity mining emissions in addition to our Premia liquidity mining emissions. And we're in talks with Lido right now to further that and do an additional month or months, etc. Once we finalize that partnership there. We've been in talks with multiple dexes about putting some liquidity on there. DK, did we put liquidity on any of the Arbitrum dexes besides Uniswap?
You got Uni, Sushi, and for the specific local ecosystem, we have not moved them yet because we're still having that discussion in the Discord.
Okay.
However, we have set aside funds for that. They're available.
Yeah, we're looking at Camelot Dex for that right now. And then we've also looked at Arrakis in the past for managing Uni V3 liquidity, but we decided to hold off on that for now until we see more proof of concept there, proof of product working. But yeah, I'm sure Cozy knows a lot more about the partnerships that we've got in the pipeline, but we've got a lot, especially once V3 comes out.
Yeah, other than the ones they've mentioned, we've had interesting talks with even other other option protocols, ecosystem protocols such as like Plutus and Jones about ways we could work together in the future. And like Froggy said, some of it's contingent on V3 or just us kind of fleshing out what those future collaborations would look like.
I also mentioned in the past on this call that we were that our vaults will be very similar to the existing Yearn vaults. And so, as part of that, we do have the opportunity to partner with Yearn and actually build on top of Yearn or work together with them on those vaults. And so that's something that may or may not be announced in the near future as we get closer to V3 release. But yeah, we're very much looking to work with the established protocols on Arbitrum and etc.
We've been chatting and close with like the GMX team since shortly after their launch, and if any of the data indexers, cough, Polygon, or why can't I think of the other one's name? Froggy.
BitQuery.
BitQuery. I was gonna say, you know who you are. Host GMX for us, please.
Or Amber Data or Coin API, just anybody.
Just begging for some data. All right, sweet. Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for taking the time for all of you to jump on stage. I know that's not easy with time zones and just workload and bandwidth. So I'm sure everyone appreciates it. And I'll go ahead and follow each of you to make sure I keep up with all the the alpha and stay up to date on the options. The way that it's evolving in DeFi, as it seems to be a really popular thing that's been just like growing kind of upwards.
Yeah, I think options is one of those things that as the broader ecosystem grows and people more people are using the underlying tokens and different trading strategies, more people start to realize the importance of volatility in those trading strategies and investment strategies. And that's where options come into play. And I think, the more people get their feet wet in the ecosystem, the more people will start to take advantage of these volatility-based strategies. And so I kind of agree with you. It's basically it's an up-only curve until we, get most of the world in DeFi, which, we've got a long way to go.
It's also a great avenue for, Web 2 user adoption. A lot of my friends who just trade casually in Web 2, when I mention options in DeFi, they understand what that is, which is always nice when I'm not speaking gibberish to people about Web 3.
Yeah, I agree with that. I used to be very big into options trading on platforms like Robinhood before I got deep into DeFi. So it's near and dear to my heart, and I think a lot of people in traditional finance and traditional investing spheres are familiar with the advantages of options. Getting access to leverage on the buy side as well as getting access to that volatility trade. And so I think, the more options vehicles that exist in DeFi, just the more of those TradFi users that understand the technology will move over, because, like I mentioned earlier, the decentralization in this space, the autonomous, settlement of contracts, etc., prevents any sort of malfeasance like we've seen in traditional finance markets. And so, the more of that continues to happen in TradFi, the more people will see move to DeFi as DeFi starts to compete on feature set.
Yeah, I 100% agree with all of that. And, I spent a lot of the early time in DeFi learning about leverage trading, and now it's time to learn a lot about options and then eventually tie the two together, at least from the way my mind works. And if you guys are ever, doing any boot camps or trading courses on how to use options through a workshop, let us know, and we'd be happy to host that or facilitate in whatever way we can.
Yeah, we're actually putting together an academy. We got a few contributors. We'll have a bunch of different courses. There'll be beginner, intermediate, expert level, and using our protocol, but just general fundamental knowledge and how it kind of pertains to the DeFi space. So happy to do that.
Perfect. Awesome to hear that. I love the word academy. It can never be used too much, and especially in a growing space like Web3 when you have trading involved. All right, thanks everyone. I'll give you some time for the rest of your evening, or wherever time zone you're in, and we'll end it here.
Awesome. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Yeah, appreciate you having us.
Thanks.
My pleasure.
Have a
Thanks
great
for
weekend.
listening, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
See you on the next one.
On the next one. See you, everyone.
Bye.